Welcome to the Indomitable podcast. I am your host, Di Cerullo, and today we have another great episode that will leave you inspired. My guest today is the Indomitable coach, Daryl Andrews, Coach D. Coach Andrews is widely recognized as Coach D. He is a renowned motivational strategist, speaker, author, and executive coach of a global stature. He has consulted and coached thousands of people in organizations on self-care, leadership, core values, and teamwork. His engaging and informative interviews make him a go-to choice for show hosts seeking high-energy discussions. Well, hello, Coach D.
Hi, I'm excited to be on your
I'm
podcast, and
so excited
we're gonna have
to
some
have
fun
you
today.
here.
We're gonna have some fun. We're gonna have some fun.
Yes. So,
Yes.
if you
hmm
wouldn't mind, if you could talk to the audience a little bit, talk about yourself a little more, introduce yourself to the team.
All right. Well, listen, I am Daryl Andrews, Coach D, as alluded to. Personally, I'm a father of four beautiful children, good-looking kids. I like to say they look just like me, but my wife
Yeah,
always pops me on the head when I said that. I said, but actually, my wife they get their good looks from my wife, and I've been married 30. I've been
Mm-hmm.
married almost 30 years. 30 years, and
Wow, congratulations.
yeah. That's quite an accomplishment, right? You don't hear much about that nowadays, But
No, you do not.
those kind of numbers. But
Yeah.
I'm a resident. I was born and raised in Syracuse, New York. I now live in Winter Park, Florida, and
Mm-hmm.
raised my family up near Philadelphia. But about 22 years ago, I decided to leave the corporate world to go out and become a coach, trainer, and consultant. I had a very successful corporate career with a company
Mm-hmm.
by the name of Abbott Laboratories, which is a medical
Yes,
diagnostics company. Yeah, I
I
had a
know
very
Abbott.
successful
Yep.
career there. But the bug to get out and start empowering people. Matter of fact, when I was at Abbott, I was like a motivational speaker
Yes.
to my teams and all of that. So it's like I
Yeah.
just had to. So I left there, jumped into education and workforce development, working with youth and
Yeah.
also educators, and did a lot of work there for years, and then kind of transformed over into doing more, leadership, executive team building, those type of things for
Mm-hmm.
organizations, and then also coaching and training for small business owners. So that's kind of where we've been running now for like the last 14, 15 years. I'm the author of several books. The two books I'm writing right now is Self-Care Movement and
Ooh,
Post-Pandemic Leadership. All right, the
yes.
key to retention. So retaining good
Yes.
employees. So I'm very excited about all that. I've been doing this stuff 20 something years. It's my passion. I love it. And I'm looking forward to hopefully sharing some information that could be of benefit to your audience.
Absolutely. So, first
hmm
of all, I want to start off with I love your background. I love your experience. I also was in the
hmm
biotech space in the Boston area. So,
hmm
I understand that that is a very specific space. And actually,
hmm
you do get a lot of experience with motivational speaking because a lot of the people that you're working with have that very specific personality. So, I love that for you. I have a similar
hmm
background in that way, and I have learned about team building from that exact same space. So that is absolutely awesome. How
Thanks.
do you, I guess I would say to you first, how do you help teams prioritize dealing with burnout, which so many of us are dealing with at this day and age and
Mm-hmm.
this time of the year? How are you helping teams sort of prioritize working with folks that are experiencing burnout?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say that's a phenomenal question, and then one that's so needed
Thank
today
you.
because
Yes.
it's almost at epidemic proportion with a lot of these companies and organizations that are out here. And what I mean by that is
Yes.
that it is causing some serious, I don't want to call it damage, but al- negative altering of cultures where, people
Mm.
are struggling with basic communications with one another. Bosses are struggling with interacting with staff,
Yes.
staff interacting with bosses. A
Mhm.
lot of contention. You hear a lot about toxic workplaces and all that. It's huge right now,
Yes.
and a big part of that is
Yes.
it's not simple, but it's deeply profound and very simple when you think about it. And I always look at it like this: there's no way on earth you're going to pour from an empty tank. When
Oh,
the tank is
yes.
empty, it's
Absolutely.
empty. So you can try to
Mhm.
pour all day long if you want to. It's not going to produce anything. Give an
No.
example.
Yeah.
Not even a pouring example, but a filling example. If my car hits E,
Mhm.
what does my car? I'm going to ask you, Di. What was my car going to do when that car hits when that hits E? What is it
It
going to do?
It's gonna stop going. It's gonna stop going, and everybody's gonna cry. Yep.
And it doesn't matter where you are. You
It
could be
does
in the
not
middle of
matter.
the, it doesn't
No,
matter. You
no,
could
it
be in
does
the middle of
not.
the desert. You could be whatever. The
Yes.
car saying, let's, I have no more gas. So this is how
No,
far
that's
you
it.
going
It
to go.
doesn't care. You can pray unless you got a
Now,
hoopty. It's not gonna do anything.
and if you have a hoopty, you're still going to be even worse. But,
Absolutely.
but let me ask you this. What happens when you try to start it up when there's no gas?
It won't. It again won't go. It just.
Makes
It.
noises.
Yep.
Chick, 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 chick.
Tick, tick,
That's how
tick,
most human
tick,
beings
tick.
are. That's how most humans
Yes.
are. People are
Yes.
trying to start that car up and there ain't no gas
Mm-hmm.
in it. And
No
so what we
gas.
like to say about burnout is a byproduct of being empty, not filled from a self-care
Yes.
standpoint, but I'm still operating. I'm still so
Yes.
now I'm frustrated, I'm miserable, I'm agitated,
Mm-hmm.
easily
Yeah.
offended because guess what? There's no
Mm-hmm.
fill up here. And so we go
No.
day after day after day after day. But then the
Yeah.
sad part about it is it becomes problematic inside of us where we start having stress issues, trauma issues,
Yeah.
ulcers,
Yeah.
things like that. Why? We keep pressing when we have nothing left to give. That's the problem what
Yeah.
causes burnout. We're you know, and so I like to
Yeah.
when I do the analogies, I'll take we have a bunch of glasses up and I'll take a pitcher and I'll pour some water into one glass and I'll fill the different glasses up, not fill them, but put water into them. But then I put the pitcher down. And I say,
Mm-hmm.
okay, now these glasses are full. Now this glass that's empty. Here we go. Am I putting
Mm-hmm.
anything in there? Because no,
Yes.
I just poured
Absolutely.
it all out. There's nothing left.
Right. Exactly.
So and so
Oh.
it's simple, but it's profound, and that's how most
Yeah.
people operate. Would you agree? I
Absolutely.
mean, that's it. Yeah.
I
Mm-hmm.
absolutely would. I absolutely would. I
Mm-hmm.
think that's true in all walks of life at this point, that people are trying to pour out of an empty cup at this point. I
Mm-hmm.
think that that's true at this time of the year, at this place in our history. I think we're seeing that in business. I think we're seeing that in life. I think we're seeing that in parenthood. I think we are seeing a lot of people trying to pour from empty cups. I absolutely agree. Yep.
Yeah, and
Yep.
I'll tell you something. And it's the thing about it is most people aren't aware of it because they just become used to it. Like it's just a normal mode of operating. And
Right.
here's something that's really interesting, guy. People will say that's just who so and so is. Oh, that's just who
Yeah.
Fred is. Or that's just who Kathy is. And I always tell people, I said, no, that's not who they are. That's who they became. This is who
Yes.
this person
Yes.
has become. I mean,
Yes.
seriously, like nobody
Yeah.
wants to be agitated. Nobody wants to be miserable
No.
or irritable.
Right.
But
Right.
the way I live my life makes me like that. And
Yes.
so if my life made me like that, I can reverse it by doing some new things. And that's where self-care comes in.
Absolutely.
Self-care is that way of filling that tank back up so that
Mhm.
as I go live life, I have more to give. So a lot of people are limited to manicures, pedicures, and trips to the spa.
Yeah. Right.
I'm like,
Right.
I'm like,
Right?
no, 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 no,
No.
no. That's a
Yeah.
that's a byproduct. What we're talking about is the
Yes.
mindset, the psychology
Yes.
part. That now I'm
Yes.
reprogramming myself to energize myself. All right. So what do we
Nope.
have to do? We have to use self care as a tool to
Right.
recharge our batteries.
Absolutely. What are some kinds of self-care that you recommend to people that aren't like that surface level markety, like visit to the spa, getting your nails done? And I'm not hating on getting your nails done. I get my nails, I'm not hating on it. Everybody go get your feet done. But what I am saying is that, like,
Yeah.
what are some really, like, more deep rooted authentic forms of self-care?
The most simplistic aspect of self care is first of all seeing myself as a priority. you know,
Mhm.
looking at myself in that mirror and saying, okay, this person is worthy of attention today. This
Yes.
person is worthy of care today. And because I
Yes.
can't get the self-care if I don't first acknowledge that there's a need, you know? And
Yes.
so that's one of the most important things. And the reason why I'm pointing that out first is because we're not raised to think this way. Even when we were younger, most of our upbringing was do this for this person, do this for that person, boom, 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 boom. And nobody ever says, hey, take some, think about it. Who've ever said, hey, take a little time for yourself? You need
Never.
it.
Never in my life. Not until I got to be a
Never,
very grown person. Yes, never.
never,
Never.
never. And so what
I
do
know.
we do? Like you said, with families, we take care of the kids, with
That's right.
parents at the age, we're taking care of mom and dad.
Of course.
We're going out, we go join churches and we're serving in the church. And, you can go on
Mhm.
and on and on and on and on of the
Yep.
things that we
On the
do
PTO. Yep.
on
Yep.
the
Yep.
PTO.
We're on the
And guess what?
PTO. Yep.
All we doing is giving. And then we
Mhm.
wonder, why am I so tired? Why am I
Why am
so
I so tired?
exhausted? So
Yeah.
I'm saying to
Mhm.
people, the most foundational thing you can do for self-care is, first of all, recognize that there's a need. And once I
Yes.
recognize that there's a need, and we don't want to wait till the doctor tells us there's a need. We want to do it
No,
while we're still
right?
healthy and still strong.
Mhm.
Once I recognize that
Mhm.
there's the need, then I have to now say, okay, what am I going to do? Now, the
Yeah.
manicures and pedicures, hey, I never got them until I got married. I didn't even know I needed it. My
Yeah,
wife said,
yeah.
she said, your feet are rough. Come with me. You're going to get a
We're doing
pedicure.
this.
So I'm sorry.
Uh,
You want to lay in this bed with me? You better
absolutely.
get some softer feet than that,
Yeah,
dude.
no, we're not having those raptor feet. No, no, no. She's right. I agree with her.
Yeah,
She's right.
so now I go get them and I love them. I might be the only guy sitting in there. I don't even care. I'm getting my love.
I don't care.
But
I don't care.
it don't even matter. but
Don't even matter.
but but then what we gotta start doing is understanding that self-care is, this is an important statement and probably a key phrase in this whole conversation, that self-care
Mhm.
is a precursor to wellness. Okay, self-care is a precursor to wellness.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
important because companies and
Mhm.
organizations are saying wellness, and I'm smiling at them and I tell them all the time, wellness is a byproduct. You're saying wellness director, wellness.
Wellness is a
Well,
byproduct.
do you have a
Exactly.
wand that you're going to wave and everybody in the company is going to be well?
Yeah.
No.
Right? Oh,
The person
yes,
has to make the
exactly.
choice. The person has to make the choice.
That's right.
So that's why I say
Mhm.
self-care is so what companies and organizations need to think about is, how do I encourage that person
Mhm.
to take care of themselves?
Mhm.
How do I encourage that person?
Absolutely.
Like, one of the most basic things is, companies, this used to be this badge of honor when people wouldn't take vacation for 3 or 4 years. That's not the dumbest thing you ever want to do.
I
What?
know.
Oh, I haven't been on vacation in 7 years. I said, no, you're crazy. That's why you burnt out and
That's
stressed.
sad.
You,
Yeah.
and companies used to
That's
give you a badge for that
uncomfortable.
stuff. Yeah, companies used to give you a badge for that stuff. I said,
Oh
man, you
my
gonna
God,
burn that
no.
person out? No,
Yes.
go away, relax, unwind, and
Exactly.
give yourself a
Right.
break. So what I'm saying
Yeah.
is, in our space, we deal with mindsets because
Mhm.
we understand that it's about empowering people to take ownership.
Absolutely.
And here's a company message for anybody out there who runs companies or nonprofits, organizations. That should be
Mhm.
one of your top priorities, to motivate, not just say we have a
Mhm.
wellness program and give you some
Mhm.
coupons to go get a smoothie, but
Mm.
to
Mm.
motivate you
Mhm.
to take ownership of every aspect of self care. And we can talk about what that looks like in a few moments, but I just wanted to put
Yeah.
that out there. Mm-hmm.
No, you're absolutely right. Anytime I have conversations with people that are working with companies or anything like that, and they'll say there's a lot of therapy speak, right? They'll talk about
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, this was a toxic workplace, but we've turned it around, or so and so is doing this, and I'm just like, how?
Mm-hmm.
How
Mm-hmm.
have you, like, you haven't even touched that. You haven't even talked about that, right? Like
Mm-mm.
I mean,
Mm-mm.
even if you're paying for, if you have a gym on the actual property, even that's not doing it. I have worked
Mm-mm.
with so many companies that say things like, "Oh, well, we have no vacation policy, so anybody can leave whenever." And I always say that if you don't have a vacation policy, you have a no vacation policy,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like if you're not doing that, if you're a manager and you're not taking your vacation,
Absolutely.
you are teaching your people not to take their vacation. How people deal with their stress is how people have reacted and learned to deal with their trauma. So I think when we talk about wellness, we need to be a lot more specific about what we're talking
Absolutely.
about, because we
Mm.
are painting that with a super general brush and it is leaving a lot of people out.
That's spot on. And I'll tell you this: what people like to do, people in organizations love to say they've done something. You
Mm.
know,
Mhm.
like, we have a wellness program. We have a DEI
Mhm.
initiative. And so there's a sense of pride that we have this. What I tell people is,
Mhm.
there's one thing to have something; it's another thing for that thing to be effective. The goal is
Right.
effectiveness. It's not having. It's not
Yes.
saying, is
Yes.
like, to say we have
Yes.
something. Okay, yeah, it doesn't mean anything. But are you
Yes.
seeing
Yeah.
statistically changes in people? Are you looking at folks
Yes.
that are more well-rounded, people that are more energetic, people who enjoy walking into that place to some extent? They don't have to be
Yes.
super happy about it, but if
Right.
you're not seeing a byproduct of this thing you created, you are more excited
Right.
about creating it than seeing the results of it.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely. That's
we will not have
really
any success with that. None.
no, because if you are going, it's, and again, you're exactly right. It's about mindset. If you are going in and your entire goal is to check that box, you're going to do that
Mm-hmm.
with as little cost, as little effort, and as little understanding, unfortunately, as possible. And that's the
Mm-hmm.
interesting thing for people who do what you do, and to a lesser extent what I do. I can
Mm-hmm.
look like shark netting that builds from the top sometimes. Because if I
Mm-hmm.
come into a company and somebody says, hey, we've got Di here. She's going to do this, that, and the other. She's going to work on our wellness program. She's going to advise on this or that. That can make the space seem a lot safer, a lot more
Mm-hmm.
welcoming for people who would get my vibe than it actually may be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean,
Absolutely.
yeah. And so it's you know, I always say this: it's a process, and you
Yes.
got to be willing to go through the process to get to the end
Yeah.
result. And in the middle, it can be messy. You know, it's kind of like
Yeah.
Dr. Bruce Tuckman's team building model of forming, storming, norming, and performing. You know what I mean?
Yes.
You got the
Yep.
storm that you got to get to before you perform. So
Absolutely.
people may be frustrated. Why are we doing this? Why are we changing? But the point is that change and innovation go hand in hand. We can't stay the same forever. There's some things we have to do to
Oh,
shift some stuff here. And
yes.
so and so I'm just going to digress for 2 seconds. Like we consult
Please.
organizations, and just for a few
Yes.
seconds, like organizations, I'm always laugh when they say, there's some people, here we're trying to go a new direction, and they just struggle with that. And I said,
Yeah.
that means it's time for them to go. What
Yeah.
do you mean, Coach? I said,
Oh,
well,
oh, agree. Agree.
if it's not, if they can't see that you're
Yes.
trying to go a new direction, and they're trying to keep
Yeah.
you in the old, in essence,
Yeah.
they're holding your organization hostage.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
They're holding you hostage. And so,
Yes.
no. So, no, I'll say this real quick. I remember one time
No,
I was
it's your
speaking at
time,
a,
Coach B. You put
I was
whatever
speaking,
you want.
I was speaking at a mental education at one time, and I still do to some extent, but
Yeah.
this school was having all kinds of problems. And so I was training the staff on engaging, at-risk youth. So this was like the
Yes.
conversation we were having.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so in the middle of my statement, my training, I made a comment that was just a simple one, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and I said, if you don't care about youth and you work in this industry, this is the wrong industry for you.
That's right.
It's just
Yep.
simple. This is not
Oh,
complicated. This is not rocket
yeah.
science. I said,
You
because
hit
I
you hit
remember
nail on
when
the
I
lawn
was,
there.
I remember when I was 13, 14, 15, you wouldn't be
Yeah.
interviewing me right now if I was still that person because I was a different kid back
Yes.
then. I had my
Same.
ups and my
Yeah.
downs, right?
Yeah.
And I said, so you have to have a love for it. And so
Yes.
they enjoyed the presentation. 3 days later, the principal called me. He was in celebration mode. And I
Okay.
said, what are you so excited for? He said, man, you said something in that presentation, and three of our people on our team quit. As they said, they quit. They left.
Okay. They
And I said, man,
left.
this is what I said. I'm so sorry. He said, no.
No. Yeah.
Those were the three that were the most toxic within the organization.
Yes. Oh my God. Yes.
Yeah.
I
And
know.
he was saying, we got to get rid of that. He said, you helped us do what we really, because of the unions and all, couldn't fire them. But
Mm-hmm.
because you said it, it stuck, and they just departed. So what I'm
All
trying to
left.
say is, when you're trying to change for the better,
Yes.
you're trying to do self-care, you're trying to do the team building, whatever, people
Yes.
need to go along for the change, because
That's right.
it's all about building those healthy cultures
That's
that
right.
we all can wake up in the morning and go to work and say, I really enjoy working here.
That's
Instead
right.
of,
If they're, yep.
oh my God, here's Monday.
Yes. Monday
oh,
scary.
oh my
Absolutely.
God, my stomach hurts.
If
I
they
don't
aren't
do this,
fighting
but
for you, if they aren't fighting with you, they are fighting against you.
that's
Absolutely.
right.
I tell people all the time, absolutely always fire those
Mm-hmm.
people, but you have to have other people exist to manage around those people. That is so much work. That is so much effort. That is so much
Frustrating.
money wasted.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely 100% of the
Mm-hmm.
time, fire your assholes. I say it all the time. Um,
Yeah.
This is my podcast. I'm allowed to swear. So anyway, I see it to businesses all the time. Unfortunately, there is a certain type of person that goes into work and wants to be lording over everybody else. And that can look like a
Mm-hmm.
lot of different things, but it always costs morale and
Yep.
productivity. That is
Yep.
always. Yep.
It's,
You are
and you know
absolutely
what? And see, here's the thing we have to understand today, and this is a part of, I think, self care too. If we do
right.
things right, it increases our confidence. And for instance, I
Yes.
remember one time I was doing a training for this organization. This is funny because we were doing core values integration. We were
Yeah.
redesigning the entire system of core values, and it took us like
hmm
about 4 days of training and coaching, but was all the senior
Yeah.
leaders of this company. And
hmm
so the senior VP invited me in to do the
hmm
work. And
hmm
so, we flew to this beautiful location. We spent all this time together. And then I noticed day two that this person that invited me in to help reshape his team was the one that needed the reshaping.
Yes.
And so
Right.
I said to him, "Hey man, can we talk for a few moments?" He said, "Sure." I said, you know, every time you speak to your people during these sessions, I notice you stand up and you look at them like real intense. And I can see
Mm-hmm.
them freezing when you do that. I said, "Do you recognize the fact that you do that?" He said,
Mm-hmm.
"I do." I said, "Yeah." I said, "Listen, we all have interacted for these last few days, but every time, all the other folks just would share things and it would be so inclusive. But when you would share, it was like
Mm-hmm.
Superman stood up, and respect me." And at first he
Mm.
was offended
Yeah.
offended.
Oh,
But I said to myself, I'm doing this person a disservice if I can't tell them the truth. And so when we're trying to build
yeah.
healthy cultures, we got to be real with people.
That's right.
Because just like you said, one person, like that was one person that
Yes.
was intimidating the entire team. One person can burn out an entire organization.
Yes.
They can burn it out, because they're
Absolutely. Yep.
narcissistic or something that's controlling them where they have to
Mm-hmm.
be in control and they
Yep.
feel like and let me say this before, let me tell you, this is very important because one of my books is Post-Pandemic Leadership, the Key to Effective Retention. That
Mm-hmm.
model of
Yes.
leadership is dead on arrival now.
Mm-hmm.
Folks will bail so fast on you
Dead. Yep.
today
So fast.
because
Yep.
people are not
Yep.
tolerating it. And that's why you have an issue with retention. You got some crazy person that wants to engage with people post-pandemic like it's pre. That ship has sailed. If we're going to be
That
effective
should have.
today,
Yep.
we better
People need
care
to know.
about people and be more compassionate. We have to be. So that's just a little leadership nugget
Absolutely.
right there.
No,
Yeah.
you are absolutely right. I mean, millennials, Gen Zers, kids that are coming up behind them, they are looking at that kind of leadership as a red flag.
Mm.
Absolutely. Always the science and the statistics bear that out. You are absolutely right. Nobody wants that anymore. And the
Nope.
funny
Nope.
thing
Mm.
is if you have somebody that can't adapt, they're just going to take everybody down with them, right? They're not
Yep.
going to be able to, like, they're going, as I said, if they're not going to be fighting with you, they're going to be fighting against you. All of those initiatives you need, all of those inclusion initiatives that you're so excited about, all of
Mm-hmm.
those are dead on arrival. Absolutely right. I agree.
Yep. Yeah. Yep.
So
Mm-hmm.
it sounds like, yep. It sounds like what we're talking about when we talk about self care is sort of not even just self awareness, but also self advocacy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it sounds like one of the things that you are teaching is self advocacy.
Mm-hmm.
So talk to me a little bit about that, and how did you learn how to do that for yourself?
Well, this is going to seem extremely simplistic, but it's the truth. I always like to keep, I think one of the keys, like we have a DEI training called DEI from the inside out. And it's a humanistic
Mm-hmm.
model of DEI. And it just talks to,
Yes.
it's real world. It's like, this is what it is. We're all human beings. Let's roll from that perspective. But what I understand is me that helped me, and I want people to understand this as well. If you are um, saying things to me that are hurtful, that
Mm-hmm.
are challenging, that make me
Mm-hmm.
feel insignificant,
Yep.
if I can't tell you the truth about that, then guess what? I'm lying to you. So I teach folks that, you know what? We need to be honest with each other. Like one of the core values that we promote the
Yes.
most is honest communication. And that is not belittling a
Yes.
person, it's just being honest.
Right.
So the greatest leaders out here understand that sometimes people are going to say things to them from their perspective that they may not fully feel
Absolutely.
or agree with. But if I give you that
Mm-hmm.
open door policy to be honest with me, this is important. as long as it's
Yep.
respectful. Don't disrespect the
Yes.
person because you don't disrespect them.
Right.
But if you can tell them, hey, you know what you said last week, you may not have meant it that way, but it really offended me. And can we
Right.
talk about it? Because you know why? As
Yes.
adults, we need to be mature enough to move on. Okay? To
Yes.
understand that people have the right. Like, you think
Yeah.
about it, that when we hire people, we're not hiring babies. We're not hiring little kids.
No.
We're hiring full
Right.
grown adults, you know,
Expert
who have
even.
feelings and emotions and expertise and
Mhm.
degrees.
Yeah.
So we need to
Yes.
treat them in such a way. So we teach that we have to have, with self advocacy, there has to be
Mhm.
something in that environment that allows for people to be honest. Now, this is important too. You can't abuse that. About, like, I
Right.
have a friend right now who's one of the I'll just share this about with diversity, one of the
Mhm.
most inclusive, wonderful people I know on the planet. Beautiful
Mhm.
lady, good friend. I've done a lot of work for her as a customer. She's one of my customers. And she would tell me about a situation she was experiencing relating to diversity. And I've said to her, I said, that's not you. I said, the
Yeah.
person is using a situation because they know they have the power to. And I said, no,
Yes.
realistically, no. No. I said, you're not that person. I know you. I know who you are.
Yes.
That other person is the person with the problem, not you. Now, people
That's
would
right.
think, as an African American male, what are you talking about? No, I know this woman. I know her
Yes.
heart. She doesn't have a racist bone in her body. And so
Mhm.
people, when I'm saying abusing, people would take things that have been open and now I'm going to shove this down your throat. That's not what I'm
Right.
talking about. I'm
No.
talking about, let's create a culture where people can be honest about things that may happen in situations, but in a respectful manner. So
Yeah.
advocacy does not mean that I'm now in control and you
Right.
need to listen to me.
Right.
That's different.
Right. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
no, absolutely. I think that that's a very important part of self advocacy. And I always say to people, especially leaders, that if somebody has come to your door, your open door, as it were, if
Mm-hmm.
somebody has come to your open door and they have given you feedback, as long as it's respectfully, it's a call in, it's not a call out, if somebody has come to your door and given you this feedback, that is a gift because they
Mm-hmm.
trust you enough with that feedback that they are
Yes.
effectively taking their own livelihood in their hands to trust you to solve a problem. They
Yep.
believe that you are worth saving and they're not just like, quiet quitting or piecing out or anything else. They are actually
Mm.
giving you that feedback so you can improve. I think
and,
that's a
and
great,
and great
great point
leaders,
you're making.
absolutely, and leaders
Yes.
understand and respect that. I remember Bill Gates said
Yeah.
something a long time ago. He said if I'm a he's using percentages. He said if I'm an 85 leader, I'm hiring 95s.
Yes.
He said
Yep.
I'm hiring
Absolutely.
95s, and he said I'm hiring
Absolutely.
people that know what I don't know, and can do
Mhm.
what I can't do. And
Yeah.
he said some of y'all may call that whatever. He said I call that great leadership. And so what I mean is, as a
Mhm.
leader, I need to be open to learn from folks and grow and hear
Yes.
instead of feeling like I'm the
Yes.
only one that
Yeah.
has the answers to it. If you're running an organization or whatever, and you're the biggest fish in that pond, you need to get in another pond
You need
because
to get in
you,
another pond. Yes.
another pond, because you don't want
Yeah.
to be the biggest one. You want to empower those people around you, and when you
Yes.
empower those people, guess what? They will
Yes.
rise up to the occasion, and sometimes they'll challenge you, and that's okay.
Mhm.
Just
Mhm.
like a great athlete on the field, sometimes you see them talking to their coach, and they may not necessarily be agreeing with their coach, but that
Right.
athlete just passed for 400 yards. That athlete just ran the ball for 250
Mhm.
yards.
Mhm.
The reason why they did that because they got a little something
Yeah.
in them too, you know.
Yes.
And if that coach
Absolutely.
don't want to hear from
Absolutely.
them, that's ridiculous. That's crazy.
Yeah.
You're gonna
Go
handcuff
go.
that great athlete. So yeah, so that's why it should be in the workplace.
Yes.
Sometimes you're gonna be challenged. I don't say, well, this is my company. Do you know the shit? Yes, yes, it is. I will say,
Mhm.
okay, write it up. Tell me what you're thinking. Put it in
Yeah.
writing so I can see it. And even if I don't agree
Yes.
with it, let me think about it for a little bit. Okay.
Yes,
So that
absolutely. Tell me
because
why
I
I'm
may
wrong. Back
there
yourself
you go.
up. Yep.
There you
Absolutely.
go. There you go.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I don't love, I mean, like, see, the fun thing about neurodiversity, I'm an ADHDer. The fun thing about neurodiversity, I have a lot of, autistics in my community, etc. We
Mm-hmm.
are the type of people that don't understand that delivering information that may be received negatively we will give that to you with honesty, because we don't mean it to offend. We mean
Mm-hmm.
it to just, like, we aren't correcting, we're just saying, right? Like, we are
Mm-hmm.
usually hyper focused experts at our particular thing. And so a lot of times when I get that phone call, oh, Di, how do I explore the genius of autism? How do I explore the genius of neurodiversity? I'm always like, how good are you at taking feedback? Right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
how good are you at receiving information that is well meant? Because
Yes.
that has not always been all of our experiences. You know, you've got the neurodiversity employment life cycle where they will hire us and think that we're great geniuses for the role. We will become good at the job. And the next thing we know, we are pushing boundaries that people don't
Mm-hmm.
like to have pushed. People
Yep.
don't want to
Mm.
change in the same way that they maybe told us they wanted to change from our hiring. And I see that a lot in DEI as well. When we will hire new people, we will tell them everything that they want to hear. And in fact, we've just put them in a very unsafe situation, because if they take us at our word, then what do? You know, then we've put them in an unsafe situation. If we
Mm.
tell them that they are completely safe, that we are including them, that we care about their belonging, sometimes we put them in a no-win situation. What do you
Yeah.
is has that been your experience as well?
Well,
Yeah, of course. I mean,
yes,
you know,
yes,
it's
yeah,
DEI.
yeah, yeah. The big challenge is, I think, if I can wrap this around something, the big challenge is when you're a leader in any capacity,
Please.
you hire people and things like that. There's a lot of learning that needs to take place.
Mm-hmm.
Like for instance, I always say this. I used to
Yes.
work in sales.
Yep.
I used to work in sales, and I was a high level at Abbott. That's what I was in sales, Abbott
Mm-hmm.
Laboratories. And I said, but I would always tell people there's a big
Mm-hmm.
difference between being a top sales representative and a district sales manager. Those are two unique skill sets
Mm-hmm.
that if you don't master, so like for instance, they would promote
Yes.
high producing sales representatives and put them in positions of
Mm-hmm.
management, and they would flop miserably. They were good at sales, but
Yes.
they weren't good at
Yes.
managing people.
Yes.
So what
So
I'm trying to
true.
say is,
Yep.
yeah. So what I'm trying to say is, like, even when you talk about things like neurodiversity and all these different things, companies should be
Mm-hmm.
regularly. It should be almost a lifelong learning for leaders. They should be learning
Yeah.
about dealing
Yes.
with different types of situations, people's experiences,
100%.
things of that nature. The reason why I know about what you're talking about, again, working in education, I used to always do a lot, what's
Mhm.
called vocational rehabilitation too. And so I
Yes.
spoke outside of
Yep.
the conferences and national conferences, things like that. So I understand
Mhm.
what you're saying. Matter of fact, in Delaware, we created some successful initiatives to help youth create like their own IEPs in school and all those kind of things. And
Yes.
so we understand.
Yes.
We did all of that stuff. I mean, like I said, I'm thank goodness I've
Mhm.
had a pretty diverse career. And
Mhm.
but every person that was involved in these processes understood who we were working with. You know what I mean? Have to understand, if you're going to hire people, and there's so
Mhm.
many diverse situations that's going on, your
Yes.
leader should always be a student of learning. And what they
Yes.
don't know, they should be able to go out and research and learn.
Mhm.
Because today people aren't sweeping their stuff under the carpet anymore.
No,
People
they
will
are not.
tell you, I'm in neurodiverse. They'll tell you different. They'll tell you
Mhm.
things where before they would try to
Yeah.
keep it, to themselves. And if
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
understand what that is, I can't effectively manage that person. I'm going to
No.
listen. It's like a coach that's trying to manage the entire team the same way.
The same
You
way.
know,
Yep. That's
that
exactly
doesn't
right.
work. It doesn't work.
No, it doesn't.
One quick thought. There's a coach
Yeah.
by the name of John Wooden. I love this guy. He was the coach
Mhm.
of the UCLA Bruins basketball team many years ago,
Mhm.
and won 7 NCAA championships in a row. No one has ever matched that. And he won 10 total, right? And so
Right.
he was being interviewed one time, and they said, Coach, what's the key to your success? And he said, oh, it's simple. He said, customized motivation. And the
Oh,
person said,
yeah.
define that a little bit. He said, no two players on my team are the same people.
Mhm.
So I've trained my coaches, his assistant coaches, and I've trained myself on how to deal with the different styles that's on our team. So one
Yes.
player may strive on data. Coach, show me the how do we do this numbers? One player might need a hug every day. I believe in you.
Mhm.
One player might like want you to drive them because it's like that's what fires me up. And they said we give each player what they need. That was brilliant. And that's how he won 7 NCAA championships and 10 in a row. That's the
That
message for folks out there.
And it's literally the premise of effective inclusion, right? It's literally
Yes.
the premise that nobody's the same, that everybody's different. And if you can effectively manage your team individually, they will make you successful. They will take off like rockets.
Yep.
100%.
Yep.
Absolutely. I could not have said it better myself.
Yeah, and I'll
So,
say this one thing about it, one
all
thing
right.
too, because he said later on in life, all those players came back and loved that man. They loved him when I remember he
Of
celebrated his
course.
100th
Of
when
course.
he celebrated his 100th birthday. All of them were there and talked about they are the persons they are today because of that leader. I just thought I
Yes.
wanted to add that point. Had a
Because
lifelong
of
effect
that
on
leadership.
him. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Absolutely. Of course it did. Everybody is looking to be led by good leaders. We are all,
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of us are maybe a little bit, our morale, our spirit has been a little bit broken by the times. But I think if we're honest, a lot of us are still looking for those great leaders among us
Mm-hmm.
to
Yep.
empower us to be our best selves, especially in workplaces. I think we all still hope against hope that that'll still be the case for each of us. And I think that that is an amazing strategy.
I'll tell you this.
Fantastic. Absolutely.
I'll tell you this. A great leader has a lifetime effect on people. So, and we talk about organizations that talk about self-care, people will never forget that. You actually care about my well-being, they'll never forget it. I'll say this: at Abbott, there was a speaker. It was a manager there. He was a tough guy. I'll be honest. We all have a few. We
Yeah,
had a few of them in our lifetime,
we all
but he
had a
was
few.
tough.
Yep.
So Abbott was a big major Fortune 30 company, so they would push,
Mhm.
but there was a manager there named Jim Walton. We call him Jimbo, and Jimbo was tough.
Mhm.
He was a
Yeah.
gator shoe wearing, expensive suit wearing. He was this guy, boy. He spared no expense on himself. Cognac drinking, kind of manager.
Hmm.
So he would
Yep.
drive you. But then when he could, he would say, "Let's go out to dinner. How's the family? How's the kids? Do you want a glass of cognac?" I said, "No, it's gonna burn my throat, but I'm still gonna sit here with you. We have a good
Yeah.
conversation because I can't roll with cognac." But anyway, um,
I can't remember.
and so, but unfortunately, Jimbo passed a couple years ago. And
Hmm.
when we were at his funeral, all these leaders of biotech firms and leaders of these are all people that used to work with him. They're not presidents or CEOs of major organizations. I was there,
Yeah.
and we all they said the same thing. We're all better off as people and as leaders because of our interaction with him. See, people need to understand when you have the privilege of leading people, you're not just
Mhm.
leading on a job, you're leading beyond it. I mean, people will take what you've
Yeah.
taught them after your time together and they will run with it in life and bless other people. But if you're that tyrant, if
Yeah.
you're insensitive, then you leave them with frustration and angst and
Yeah.
stress. And so
Forever.
be that leader that
Yes.
people will remember in a positive way all of their lives.
Mm. Absolutely. I love that. You're absolutely right. So,
Mm,
as I'm always saying, I'm sure this conversation could go on forever, and I would truly
mm,
love for it to. But
mm,
we need to let Coach D. Andrews, get back to his important work in this world, especially inspiring the
mm,
next generation of leaders. But I'm sure
mm,
everyone would love to hear more about how to follow you and get in touch if they wanted to work with you. So, how do they do
mm.
that best?
Yes, thank you. Well, the best way
Of course.
obviously is to go to
Yeah.
my website, which is
Hmm.
coachdspeaks.com. I would encourage people out there to connect with me on
Hmm.
LinkedIn too. I'm Daryl Coach D Andrews on LinkedIn. We do a lot of
Yep.
posts on LinkedIn and positive type things and leadership
Hmm.
and self care type stuff. So connect on. So I would say those are the best ways. And then just keep in mind um, we understand that it's one thing to say we want to do something, it's another thing to build a system. So we're about systems approaches. There's a quote that I use, and that is
Yeah.
nobody said, you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. So when you reach out to us, we're not just going to
Yeah.
be inspiring you, We're going to give you systems
Mhm.
to improve those areas that we talked
Mhm.
about quite at length here in this podcast.
So the funny thing is, and I realized it when you first started speaking, that I am already in your LinkedIn circle because I realized I was like, is this the guy? Can this be the guy? I have been learning from you on LinkedIn for years
Wow.
now. And I was like,
Wow.
oh Lord, let him say LinkedIn. This is definitely that guy. And I am
Thank you so
so,
much.
of course,
Yeah.
oh my God. Y'all, be following
Mm,
Coach D on LinkedIn because I
mm,
swear I have been learning from him leadership qualities, things that we look
mm,
for in DEI, all of those things
mm,
for years now. I am so,
mm,
so grateful to have you have
mm,
come on and
mm,
chat with me about, so, so
mm.
grateful. So thank you for that. So
Well,
as
thank
I
you.
wrap up today, I wanted to thank everybody for tuning in today. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with your friends and don't forget to subscribe to the Indomitable podcast for more incredible stories of humaning. Remember, my new book, Indomitable, A Foster Care Story, is available everywhere you get your books and currently has 5 stars on Goodreads. And finally, as ever, I am so happy to have you in community here with me. And remember, together we are truly indomitable. Have such a great week, everybody. Thank you so much, Coach D, for being here.
Thank you.